stakes are high and needs are more complex when running an established consumer products brand. You've got mounting pressures across multi-channel sales, complex supply chains, inventory across multiple warehouses, and leadership needs fast, accurate data to make decisions. That's why leading brands partner with Baker Tilly, an accounting firm that specializes in the consumer product space. Their team understands the unique challenges of scaling product-based businesses, whether it's navigating transactions confidently, sales tax compliance, integrating ERP systems like NetSuite, or predictive analytics. Baker Tilly delivers. Discover how Baker Tilly's industry-focused services can help elevate your business. Visit bakertilly.com.
Good to meet you guys. My name is Matt Deimund, Chief Product Officer at Dude Perfect. I have been there for a whopping 2 months, so I can take credit for none of anything that's happened with Dude Perfect. But I'm excited to share with you a little bit about our story, where we are today, and particularly how we're thinking about retail and some of the new things that we're working on and that we've got out. Just to introduce myself a little bit, live in Dallas, married with 3 kids that are 6, 8, and 9, so I'm perfectly in the right demo for Dude Perfect fans. Got a background not at all with creators or media, but have been in the sports world and private equity-backed sports companies, and after starting career in consulting. So excited to chat with you guys and tell you a little bit about Dude Perfect. So today I want to talk about what I'll call the creator advantage, which is really about Dude Perfect's product journey. And it's really this concept of, in this world of creators, and we can look no further than Mr. Beast and Feastables, which you've got there on our tables alongside some of the new board games that we've launched with Walmart. There's a unique way that we can speak to customers in a way that we can then take that content and really translate it to product success. But before we talk about anything, I think it's a great translation here for why we do what we do. Our mission is really to become the most trusted brand in family entertainment. So just a question, how many of you have seen Dude Perfect videos? I'd say most of the room, maybe not everybody. How many of you have kids that love Dude Perfect? Watch it. So that's probably most of those folks who just raised their hands. One of the things that is the reason that I love the brand, and when we talk to consumers about why they love the brand, is because they can trust it. And we obviously have built our business off of YouTube. They're incredible partners, and that's where kind of a lot of our business has grown up from. But a lot of parents say, hey, I can't actually leave my 6-year-old alone on YouTube. Not because their 6-year-old is going to go look for something that maybe they don't want them to, or maybe not even because they're going to see something. If that kid was 14, they might be totally fine with that kid consuming that content. But because things will happen and videos will get suggested and they may see ads that they don't think are appropriate. But if it's Dude Perfect content, then parents can trust it. So whatever the kid is watching, if it's Dude Perfect, and that's something where the company has really developed that trust over decades. And trust is built little by little. And then I think it can get eroded very, very fast. So as we think about continuing to build the brand and scale the brand, that trust of families is something that is the core tenet of how we think about every product decision we make or every experience decision we make. And I'll share a little bit more about how we're starting to look about those things. So 3 things I'll talk about today. First is just a little bit of who we are. People know us for our videos and our content, but I think there's a really great story behind why we do what we do. I want to talk a little bit about our retail and product journey. We are very early days compared to many of the companies that are here and many of you, where retail has not been a huge part of the company's kind of revenue streams in the past, but it's going to become increasingly important. And I'll talk a little bit about where we're headed in terms of how we actually bring some of those cool things to life. So I think most of you know this. Dude Perfect started as this really cool trick shot group. Started in 2009 with 5 dudes who were at Texas A&M, did trick shots in the backyard, went viral. You can see here that they recreated one of the pictures. This little known fact is there were actually originally 6 members of Dude Perfect. The guy on the left is a guy named Sean, who's a good friend of mine. Our kids go to school together. He chased the dream of becoming a doctor and has now become a very successful surgeon. Pursued his dreams. The other 5 guys obviously decided to actually make this a career. And so the the kind of growth that Dude Perfect has seen has just been pretty wild, from evolving from guys who started with just doing some cool things when they were in between classes to what's become a pretty large mainstream media company. We are the largest sports account on YouTube. You can see some of our audience here. We've got I think we're up to 60.9 million subscribers now. We're very close to 61. If you look at the bottom, the 4 major US sports leagues have less subs on YouTube combined than Dude Perfect. And so it's just a really amazing audience that's been cultivated and grown over time, where there's a lot of different repeatable sets of IP that we've created, from our overtime series to Cool Not Cool, to obviously trick shots and battles and lots of different things that those of you who've seen the content have seen. But clearly, like, YouTube has been the growth engine behind our company, and we still obviously believe will be a big part of what our future looks like. What's cool about Dude Perfect, and what's a little unique about a creator business, is it's not named after any of the 5 guys. It's named after kind of this, funny moment that happened when Sean looked at the camera and said, "Dude, it's perfect," like set up for how the camera was, and they decided to go with that as a name. But what we're really about is sport, fun, competition, and family. And those are brand pillars that we think are timeless. And creators will come and go. There are great examples of kind of before the creator economy of individual personalities, of folks who have had really long, multi-decade careers where their personality, think of Oprah, has been able to extend from media to other things and different forms of media. But these things, these brand pillars, they're timeless. They cross, no matter what kind of sports fan you are, they cross geographies, they cross age gaps, whether you're 4 or you're 14 or you're 40 or you're 70. These are still things that are important. And so as we think about the content we create, and then obviously the ways that we bring that brand to life outside of that content, these are really the 4 of the different brand pillars that we focus on. Dude Perfect has an opportunity to work with really some of the best brands, broadcasters, athletes, celebrities. And this is one of the things that we think is really neat. You can see some examples here of the folks that we worked with, from our Amazon Thursday Night Football stream that we've done a couple of times, and to appearances on College Game Day. We're obviously based in Dallas, so we do a lot of stuff with the Dallas sports teams. But I think one of our most popular things we've done was with an overtime segment with Steph Curry. So a lot of different great brands that we get to interact with. And what's fun about that is that it really builds bridges across lots of different communities. The challenge of being a professional sports team, or even an athlete on a professional sports team, is there will be people that like or don't like you just because of their affinity to that team or that geography. But Dude Perfect's really a brand that can go beyond all of those, and interact with multiple of those sets in a way that just allows us to be flexible, which I think is a pretty neat thing. Has anybody seen our new headquarters video? If you haven't seen it, and there's one video to watch, this is a cool one to start out. I think I work at the coolest office that exists. So if anybody has got a cooler office, let me know. But we have an 80,000 square foot headquarters that is really like a production lab. It's a content studio, where we film. We've got full-size basketball, mini golf. We're installing a rock wall this week, a 45-yard football field. And it's a great place where we can actually just bring other influencers, celebrities, creators, and we create content in it. So it's a production studio in and of itself that's set up to do all of that. And also just creates a great, amazing space for local events, partners, things like that. And just a neat way for people to see in real life the Dude Perfect brand starting to come to see something physically, not just video. We also do live tours. Has anybody been to one of our tours? We're coming to Salt Lake City this summer. So if you've got kids, you should check us out. We will do about 200,000 tickets this summer in 20 different cities, about 10,000 a city, where we bring a Dude Perfect show on the road. And so it's a 90-minute show where you can see and experience the dudes do battles and trick shots, and we have different segments. And it's a way that you bring kind of what people watch on YouTube into you can watch in a physical experience. So I think as you see, the brand has continued to evolve such that what started as really the only way you could interact with Dude Perfect at the beginning was you watch us on YouTube. But now you can actually go physically in person to see us. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the physical things that are tangible, ways that you can engage and interact with the brand as well. We've done a lot of cool live broadcasting. Here's some examples of what we did with NFL and Prime Video, where we won some Emmys. And we've got some other neat, interesting things coming from a live standpoint that we'll be talking about in the next couple of months with some really neat different partners. Here's a quick shot at what our ESPN 30 for 30 documentary was, which does a really great job of telling the story of Dude Perfect, just to help our fans engage and understand that we have actually done some trick shots from airplanes. A sneak peek, we'll likely be doing some more partnerships with the Air Force coming up this summer with some pretty cool things that we've done in the past. So a lot of neat content ideas that then obviously get to translate into other things. And we are co-owners of a soccer team, which is a neat thing for the dudes, where we have a equity relationship there, and we're the front of kit sponsor. And so it's just another way for the brand to kind of extend into life. But I want to really talk, I think, as we move forward about fan behavior. And this slide's not super easy to read. It's dense. It's maybe not best suited for this. But what we have found over the years, and what gives us conviction as a kind of shift into Dude Perfect and retail and product, is that the partnerships we've had have changed fan behavior. So we just came out with our third flavor of Dude Perfect body armor. It released earlier this week. We were the number one selling body armor SKU at Walmart and Kroger when this came out, I think for 8 straight weeks. And we brought in a whole audience of ours that came to Walmart, that came to Kroger, came to other stores specifically to get that weren't and hadn't necessarily been customers before. We did a really cool partnership with Chili's. I think for those of you who know that brand and have seen what they've done with the Triple Dipper, they've had some incredible success. We helped drive a lot of progress in that area for them, just based on some really neat, unique kind of triple trick shot type opportunities that form with them. And the games and toys that you see on your table, like there's a variety of those on the different tables. We've got our board game, sling puck, tabletop type things. That's a really interesting story that really is kind of what got Dude Perfect into physical product. So at the beginning of 2023, Walmart came to us and they said, hey, we've typically had an as seen on TV section. So you guys remember lots of the as seen on TV sections. They said, we want to do something a little bit different. We're interested in doing a creator section. Do you guys have any products that you could, that you have that maybe we could put in our stores? And our team said, no, we don't, but we should. And so Walmart connected us with some of their partners who said, hey, we think that this is the type of partner that can help you build some products and bring those to life. And so we formed a partnership there and brought these games that were the number one selling toy at Walmart for several weeks for the holiday season in 23. And then a new line of products that came out this last 24, and a few more that are coming out this summer in a few different categories. And so those three things those kind of three examples have built the conviction within Dude Perfect of, we actually believe that we can authentically sell a lot of product. And that authenticity that Matt from Stanley talked a little bit about this morning is really key to how we think about where Dude Perfect should play in the retail space and where we shouldn't play. A funny story is I'm getting to know the team. I've been a Dude Perfect fan, and my kids have consumed the content. I'm the same age as the dude, so I've spent time with them. With the brand over the years. They had a big partnership with Nerf. Nerf is a Hasbro brand, and the way that deal was structured was a sponsorship with a very, very small royalty. And what the dudes learned is they sold an insane amount of Nerf products, tens of millions of dollars of Nerf products. Because it's such an authentic product for them to use in their videos. It wasn't them hawking merchandise or trying to sell something that didn't feel like it fit the creator spirit. And it really helped them build conviction of, I think we can take an ownership stake. We can take a more of a principal stake rather than a license type stake. And so as we've seen that with some of our partners, we continue to find ways where our best partnerships are whenever we're really finding ways to integrate authentically with something that just makes sense for the brand. We still obviously have kind of core media sponsors where It's a more transactional relationship. They're interested in sponsoring a video. But where we get really excited is whenever we can do something with brand partners that then allow both of us to play in a space that just makes sense for who Dude Perfect is. So authenticity is really how we think about what should drive the consumer products that we do. And so we started in the product space, probably like all creators start, with just typical creator merch. So you can see examples here: hats, hoodies, socks, all kinds of stuff. I don't think we have Stance socks, but we can talk about it. But all kinds of great partnerships that we've had, but really traditional creator merch. And the intent and focus there is just like all creators, right? You can have that product and there are fans who want to wear your brand. And that's great. And that's a great business, but that's not going to be a business for us that we think is really what's going to drive us to the next frontier of who Dude Perfect is. And it's maybe not even the best way for our brand to come to life. And so over the time periods, we've leaned a little bit more into authenticity of, well, when we're doing trick shots with basketballs and footballs and soccer balls, rather than those be Wilson or Spalding, is there a sense where that Dude Perfect basketball, either there's something that's innovative about it, or even it's just a branded ball, could make sense because, again, that's on brand for who we are. We're not advertising or trying to sell something or licensing something that isn't authentic to who we are as a company and as a brand. But things like little kids' birthday party packs. There are so many kids that want to have a Dude Perfect themed birthday party. And if you just go on Etsy, you see hundreds of different styles of inauthentic examples of that. But starting to lean a little bit further in as a company to how do we actually meet and engage with fans for products that they want that solve some kind of use case for them. And then where we've been headed is with Walmart, which we're now in Walmart, Academy, Kroger, lots of different kind of retailers out there. For some big ones, Target. But what we did is we really tried to innovate within the category, where all of the products that you see on the screen or that you see on your tables, those weren't products that existed. There's not a lot of board games where there's trick shots as part of the board game. There wasn't a sticky tic-tac-toe, which really came out of some content we created that was like a giant board with peanut butter and bread throwing it on it. And so things that were authentic to us, where that partnership with Walmart initially has helped us really realize there's a great opportunity for Dude Perfect to have more physical products. We did some content recently where we effectively called it like perfect pitch or perfect kick, where you have a cutout and the hole is exactly the same size as the football, right? So imagine trying to throw a football through a hole that's exactly the size of a football. Like most people know this, but a golf hole is much bigger than the diameter of a golf ball. A basketball goal and the hoop is two basketballs. You can fit two basketballs in there. So from a sense of like that content, what a great product idea for us to be able to sell that at home. We've already received lots of videos from kids who cut their own little perfect hole because they want to try and recreate that. Well, it just makes sense for us to have a product that does something like that. Or you see in our office, we have moving basketball hoops, where the basketball hoops are actually on motors that will move around so we can do trick shots when they're moving. The Nerf basketball hoop that could move, that's an interesting innovation that is very authentic to us that we could look to bring to market. So things like that are different than us kind of just licensing our name to something that is just an existing product. We will do some of that licensing because it just will make sense. But we will think a lot more about our hero products in this kind of space because, again, we think authenticity with our fans is what's really going to drive the success. So a couple of things we've learned. Multiple monetization models. We talk about it as the 3 M's. Everything we do from a brand partner or from a product or even an experience, we have to think about, is it right for us to license this? Really, I guess the first step is just sponsorship, where it's just an engagement with a brand and they pay us a fee and we promote their product, to a licensed relationship where we're kind of giving our IP for someone else to use on their product, all the way to a full ownership principle where we're actually going to create the product ourselves. We're going to work with the right partners. And so there are multiple ways to do that. And the right answer is not always the same depending on what the category is. There are some areas where there may be demand for that product, but it's just not right for us to be the one who leans in to make it. And there may be some others where we think rather than go down a licensing path, we can take a much greater percentage of that margin, and we can actually build a venture outside of the core kind of holdco that allows us to go after some of those things, leveraging the audience that we have. A big thing we've learned, secondly, is ads versus authenticity. When we have authentic partners that it just makes sense from a brand fit, those videos perform so much better than whenever we have what feels like ads. And so we've taken a really hard look at, as we think about what brands we work with, how we incorporate them into our content. And then, of course, as you think about that moving into retail, Body Armor is a great example. Bass Pro is another great partner of ours. How do we make sure that there's authenticity as opposed to just showing our audience ads? Because there's plenty of places and ways that you can get those ads, but really being authentic with what it is that we're creating. And the last thing I'd say that we've learned is this ownership mindset. And it's the evolution of the brand, of what started with 5 guys who couldn't afford to do this full time and eventually decided to take the risk, to now we've raised quite a significant amount of money last spring, where we have the capital to go after some things and take some big bets. And we've got the proven track record in many areas where we know we can sell toys and games at retail. We know we can sell a consumable. And so as we look to go forward, which I'll talk a little bit less of where we're headed, that intent of an ownership mindset is something that is really driving the product decisions that we make. So a couple things here for where we're headed, and then I'd love to go through questions. Again, we've talked a lot about this: authentic, innovative products. We're much less interested in kind of dude perfect being on anything and everywhere. And much more interested on how do we make sure that this is something that drives value and meets the audience that we have. Ownership mindset and approach is we've probably covered enough, but I can't understate how critical that is as we think about a lot of creator brands are looking to do more and more of this. And you can look at Feastables, or you can look at Joyride, or you can look at Prime, you can, which is not quite creator, but still talent driven at its initial launch. There's just a much greater recognition that when you have built a really loyal and dedicated audience, you can monetize that audience and the trust you have with that audience in a way beyond just the content consumption, but actually in product and experience consumption. We'll certainly be expanding our offering set. Particularly for retail, as we think about new products that are coming to market, but also experiential. So I was having a conversation with a few of you before today started. One of the things that Dude Perfect is really excited about is a physical place where Dude Perfect can really come to life, that fans can experience it. So if those of you who have kids who've watched Dude Perfect videos with your kids, I'm willing to bet that there are some trick shots that we've done that your kids have tried to replicate. Some of those trick shots are super easy. Anybody can take a water bottle and try to do cool flips. But it's pretty difficult and not recommended by Dude Perfect to try to throw a baseball through a moving car window the way that we do in our videos, or to do some of the cool things we've done with our rocket launches. But if there was a physical place that could incorporate those kinds of experiences, how neat would that be for kids, where it's a mix of, it's not Disney World, but it's not your local trampoline park either. A place that, again, it's rooted in those values of sport, fun, community, family, where we think it could be really exciting. So I think what we have built is we've built a really engaged audience. And it's an engaged audience that's been built over 15 years. There's a variety of ways that we engage, and we really engage across the whole family. And so because of that audience that we've built, that's really one of the main reasons that I was excited to take the role and to join the team, is because I think we just have a lot of different opportunities to monetize the products and experience. And so that's what we'll be looking to do from a retail perspective. So I think that is all I've got. Love to take questions and go from there.
So if you've had contact from any of the networks or like traditional TV, and that, is there some real exploration in doing like a series or seasons and all of that?
For sure. We have had significant interest from all the major networks, whether streaming or traditional linear TV. The dudes have some history. They did a show on Nickelodeon a few years ago. Really, that was before I think they had really risen to the new heights they have. And we've done Amazon's Thursday Night Football simulcast, hosted from our previous headquarters last year. I think people have looked at Beast Games on Prime and seen a great example, right? Many of you have consumed that content. So we have been and are having discussions with lots of those different entities. I think I'd up-level the question by saying we are evaluating what are the other distribution methods and content methods outside of a created for YouTube video. So you will see we're going to do a lot more shorts on YouTube. We'll also be doing kind of more dedicated content across other social platforms where content you put out on TikTok is not necessarily the same content you want to put out on other platforms. And there's other reasons and ways to drive it. But also other mediums of content. So, every creator business has this challenge of at some point, will my talent not be as relevant as they are today? Right. And without Jimmy, it's hard to imagine Mr. Beast. And what I think Jimmy has done a really, really great job of, and the whole business behind it is creating multiple businesses that deleverage a little bit of that key man risk. And it's still the content that drives and fuels the start of those businesses. So the content on YouTube, we think, will be very critical for us. But we're exploring a middle grade book series. Wouldn't it be awesome if the way that many of you may remember growing up with Hardy Boys or Boxcar Children or Nancy Drew, or there was an author named Matt Christopher who wrote sports stories. Wouldn't it be pretty cool if there was a Dude Perfect mystery adventure series? It's on brand, it's on mission. It doesn't need 5 guys to actually activate it. It's a product that can live. A lot of cool things like that. So a lot of stuff in the works, and I think you'll see something from us soon on one of those platforms.
Hey, kudos to you guys for what you're doing. I've watched some of the content, but in a world, I'm in the middle of reading The Anxious Generation, which is that kids have screens in front of their face all the time and don't get out and do. I assume, but do you encourage people to get out and be out and actually do instead of just absorbing content?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an irony, right, of the business that the way that we've built the business is through kids watching screens, right? And I think we would say there's a place for that. We wouldn't advocate I wouldn't advocate as a parent. In fact, we limit screen time for my kids, not because I think it's bad. It's an incredible technology where you can learn. I've had so many amazing moments where my daughters and I, or my son and I, were watching content together, and you're creating memories as a family. And sports does that. And I think the type of content we create, we feel like does drive community. But it also encourages kids to go do some of those things.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is you're unique in that way. Is it's not just about absorbing; it's about going out and trying some of this stuff.
That's right.
So,
yeah, it's about going out and trying some things. And I think as we lean into more products and more experiences, this board game is a great example of it's a really fun thing to do with your family. It's, you may have played Monopoly as a family, but you probably haven't played a game like this as a family. And so they're experiential, they're active, they make sense with who we are. And I think as we look at a fixed physical experience, the whole point of that, or books is another good example, ways to engage with a brand, but it's still, we think it adds value to a consumer and we can get behind it. Like 2nd to 5th grade boys need to read more. They just do, right? Like 2nd to 5th grade boys usually aren't ones who I want to go read, but it's really important for their development. I've got a 2nd grade son right now. I will be so proud to create a product that will make him want to read more. That's good, that's clean, that's trusted, that's family friendly. I'll be so proud if we can create a physical experience where families can come together. 3-year-old can participate, grandma can participate, and it brings families, and it's beyond just the kind of engagement with the screen.
Matt, good to see you up here and meet you in person, and amazing job that, Dude Perfect has built that safe place. I have little kids as well, and I love being able to leave them on the channel and know they'll be in a fun spot, and then we'll be doing something interesting that afternoon as a result. Kind of playing off the comment you made, I find that my 9-year-old wants to go out and try the trick shots right after consuming the content. So it somewhat does encourage that. My question to you guys is, I couldn't agree more with this creator advantage kind of point of view you guys have summarized here, and the opportunity to monetize then an engaged audience. And I come from the apparel space, and oftentimes you'll see apparel founders who are successful will then repeat the success through understanding the kind of the recipe for how to create an apparel brand. I'm super interested because you guys are at the forefront along with Mr. Beast and a few others where the platform is providing this opportunity in spades that they've built over 15 years. Are you guys incubating or considering diversification of other up and coming talent, or creating unique single person channels, or acquiring up and coming talents kind of platforms? But it's just a question, just curious.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something we've talked a whole lot about, and something that the dudes know and recognize, that as 36 to 38-year-olds, when they're 50, they may be a little bit less either capable physically or less relevant to an audience, right? And so how do you make sure that may not be true, but it might be true, and they may have different kind of visions for how they want to spend their time. So how do we think about future-proofing the platform? For those of you who watch our content may know Sparky. Sparky's a good example of a younger talent that has kind of been accepted, if you will, almost as he's not quite a sixth dude, but like fans know him, fans love him. A few of the other folks that are featured are actually some of our editors and producers. So we use a lot of like homegrown talent that are a part of that. But it's something that we're working through to figure out, does it make sense for Dude Perfect to actually, purchase the IP and create talent agreements with other creators that we trust and bring them into less Dude Perfect as five guys and more Dude Perfect Entertainment as a creator house? I think that's one possibility. I think we also see that you can do a similar thing to future-proof the business by using what you have today to launch new businesses that can stand alone. I think Feastables is a perfect example of that, where you have a lot of people who know that that's Mr. Beast, but there are plenty of people who may not actually know it's Mr. Beast, or may have never got his content, but the brand has been able to become big because of the content. So certainly figuring out like what does it look like to transfer some of that creative talent, and whether that means that we end up as like a house of different brands and it's not just Dude Perfect. Time will tell, but that's certainly a possibility that could happen.
Just a quick question about collaboration with other creators, because you notice the creative community in YouTube, there's so much cross collaboration with Mr. Beast, Mark Rober, all these other guys. How important is that to you guys? And is that a strategy that's a long-term, or is that generally just a short-term strategy to get their viewers and then move on?
Yeah, it's certainly important to us. And I do think it's something that you'll continue to see from us. The same way that retail brands collaborate on product where there's a natural fit, it's the same principle for creator brands. There are some of those great folks who, like Hewlett Brothers, do trick shots. If you look at our video, two videos I might point you to, the Trick Shot World Championships, we brought in 7 of the biggest trick shot, kind of ultimately were copycats of Dude Perfect. We brought 7 of those different creators, the creator partners, into Dude Perfect's headquarters and into Texas Ranger Stadium to do Trick Shot World Championships, where the dudes didn't actually participate. They were just hosts of the show. And so what's great about that is it allows those creators to then create their own content. It's always a little bit of a swap. And then we feel good because that brings us to new audiences that maybe didn't know us or hadn't experienced us. Obviously, it really helps them because they get in front of our audiences. And there's ways that we believe that growing the pie is better than arguing over, how do we make sure people don't watch them and they watch us. The thing that I'll say that's really, really critical to Dude Perfect, that is maybe not as critical to other brands, is we have to be really careful who we collab with. Does anybody have the Dude Perfect app? You may or may not have it. We've got about 2 million downloads. This is what I would call like our core audience. And the folks that use the Dude Perfect app will notice when you go into the Dude Perfect app, it's basically a content streaming form today. It's completely ad safe. So we have moms who watch everything to make sure that any content is on there like fits our brand standards. We have all the blockers for things that even YouTube might allow that we think that's just not right for a segment of our audience that wants to see that. But on our Dude Perfect app, we have actually brought in content from 4, 5, 6 different other creators. So our app is now more of like a Dude Perfect entertainment hub, where if you don't want to put your kid on YouTube by themselves, you can put them on our app, and anything and everything they see is going to be okay. There's going to be no violence. There's going to be no language. There's going to be no sexuality. There's going to be nothing that you wouldn't want a 4-year-old to see. And so we have to be really careful, because we have had instances where we've partnered with a creator. The content we create with them is awesome, fits our standards. Most of the content they also create fits our standards, but every once in a while they create content that we don't think fits our standards and doesn't fit our audience. And that's not to put a value judgment to say that content can exist, but it doesn't align with our brand. And then we've had to really think through, how do we make sure that if it's that same responsibility of if the decisions we make introduce a kid to another creator, and then that creator has content that doesn't align with our brand, mom is going to think that Dude Perfect brought my kid to that content creator. And that loses and erodes a little bit of trust. Now, maybe we don't get fully blamed for that, but it's about thinking about that brand trust and holding that really, really high. So as we think about content collabs, that's really, really important. We'll still keep doing them. And it's great for everybody. We've done a lot of really neat things with different creators and celebrities, and I think we aspire for some of our content to be the modern version of going on David Letterman. Stop by in Dallas, come to our headquarters, spend some time with us, do something active. Let's create content. You can use that content yourself, things like that.
Hey, thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
In the fast-paced world of retail, technology can be a transformative force, reshaping the way businesses operate and consumers shop. Is your retail organization leveraging technology to its top capabilities? Evolving your technology capabilities can help enhance visibility into your business, decrease risk of increasing cybersecurity incidents, accelerate productivity with artificial intelligence, and more. Deeply immersed in the consumer products industry, Baker Tilly professionals bring customized solutions that can help you find the right technology fit. Visit bakertilly.com to learn more.